Hi guys, it's me, Trudy Lee. How's everybody doing? You guys, it's early in the morning here, 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, not early, but early enough. It's 65 degrees already. It may get up to 80 degrees today. Thank goodness. Yay, I'm so happy. I am so happy. The sun is shining. It's beautiful outside. My husband's out there working. Hopefully, he won't make too much noise and bother us. But he's working on the deck still, getting it all ready. He's about ready to paint it. I paint it every year. I kind of gave up on it, and he's taken over. Yay! But he wants my help, so I'm gonna have to go out there and help him. I got up this morning super early at 5 o'clock in the morning. I tried to go back to sleep. Actually, it was a little before 5, but Spirit is just talking to me, talking to me. You know, I realize now that Spirit has always been talking to me all throughout my life, and I've tried so hard to drown it out with so many different things. Drowned it out with the TV, drowned it out with, having a good time drinking, anything you can do to drown it out. You just think, why can't I just quiet my mind? Because Spirit has something to say and wants to get your attention and listen. So this morning, of course, now I've learned to listen. So I started listening, and I have a nice little story for y'all. Okay. But first, I want to begin with it is President's Day. So honor our presidents and honor Jimmy Carter. So he's in hospice now. He's at home in hospice. But I would like to begin with prayers to honor and ask that everybody pray for President Carter's peaceful, loving passing. He's done so much for people. God bless him. Thank you, Lord, for bringing this man to earth, and so many people that he touched and helped. I am so grateful for him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a loving, humble servant. He's used his life to be of service for the people, to help improve the quality of people's life all over the world with his organization. And I was reading about him a little bit and looking up some of the things. One of the things I found out is that he was a personal friend of Elvis Presley. I didn't know that, and I always thought that he founded Habitat for Humanity. I thought he founded that, but he didn't. He volunteered there, and he kind of lifted up that organization and made it what it was because of his prestige that he brought to it. So him and his wife have just done so much. He has been a devoted Christian also. He's been a deacon of the church, a Sunday school teacher. In 2000, the Southern Baptist Union announced that they would no longer allow women to become pastors, which is news to me. I didn't even know that. And he felt that women, should play an equal role, President Carter, and he renounced his membership. He says women have just as much right and just as much to give and to be of service as a man. So he renounced his membership. So good on him. Also, just little tidbits, there's going to be so much said about him in the next few days, I'm sure, with his passing that you may hear all these things. But in 1969, he saw a UFO and he reported it to the National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomenon. So, yeah, you would think that if people say our government knows more than we know, so he may know more than we know now, but back then in 1969, evidently he didn't know, so he had to report it. But what else? Oh, the Habitat Humanity. They're all over. They're all over the United States. We have it here in San Antonio. And when we were building our house, you could go to the Habitat of Humanity store and you can buy stuff really inexpensive for your home. Like if you need a door or something like that for your house, you can go over there. It's, I think it's some of the merchandise that's, was bought to help people and build the homes. There's some leftovers and stuff. I don't know how it works, but you can get stuff really cheap there. And I remember we went there. I don't know what we bought. I don't remember anymore, but I know we went there a few times while we were building this house. Um, I call it the peanut store because Habitat for Humanity store is such a big mouthful. Whenever I'd tell my husband, let's go to the peanut store because of Jimmy Carter, you know. So that's I always thought he had founded it all, but then when I started reading that he was just a volunteer. But anyway, God bless him. I just pray that he has a peaceful, loving passing that I'm sure he will have. You know, wouldn't that be crazy if he passed away on President's Day? It would be very fitting for him. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Uh, you know, he's been dealing with cancer since 2015. So he's, you know, nowadays when you have cancer, it's not really a death sentence. It's kind of living with heart disease. So he's been living with cancer, and they say you're cancer free until it pops up somewhere else, you know. But he has struggled for many years with his health, but he's continued to be of service even through his struggles. So God bless him. Okay, so now I'm going to get into my story and start talking about my story. So that's what this is going to be about today. So it's not a reading. I did want to do some political readings on some people. I've got an interesting take on some of the things, but maybe tomorrow I'll do that. But today I'm going to kind of continue on my story. Now, people are asking, is this part 3? Is this part 4? What, you know, is this part 5? I'm going to stop calling them parts because you could actually hear this story at any time and it doesn't matter where it falls. So it doesn't have to be, remember before I told you, it doesn't have to be a linear story. It's just my story. Whatever comes up, comes up. That's how I'm going to do it because that's how Spirit's revealing it to me. Every time I tell you guys a story, I learn something. It's an experience that I had, and I'm sure I had learned that experience, but when you look back on it, you really can see the evolution of it. So it's very interesting. So my parents were both alcoholics, but they were functioning alcoholics. You know, it's like they had their designated time to drink, which would be a lot at the time, you know, and but it would also alter their personalities. They'd be completely different people. And the weird thing about it is they didn't bring alcohol into the house that I could see. You know, if they brought it into the house, it was well hidden. And I do remember my mother saying before that my father would hide alcohol. Um, he he was a functioning alcoholic, but he would go for months at a time and not have a drink, and then all of a sudden he'd start drinking again, and it would just like it would take him a long time to get back off from it again, and then it was just an ongoing thing. So off and on, off and on. My mother, on the other hand, was a little bit different. Um, she, but neither one of them drank at home that I could see, definitely. So I remember one time when when I was younger, there was a high kitchen cabinet, and there was a bottle of whiskey or something at the very, very top cabinet, which I didn't even see anybody take it down and drink it or anything. I just remember seeing there was a bottle there at one time. There was never wine served in my house. You know, we never, my parents didn't drink wine, never drank. I didn't even see beer, being bought or anything, honestly. I don't know. Like I said, if they drank in front of us, it was on the down low. But I have to say, my father had a brother, and I think I've talked about him in another video, Uncle John Allen. Uncle John Allen, he was his younger brother. When he would come to visit us, my father would definitely drink beer with him. They would go and buy beer and bring it to the house. And that's only time we would ever see any alcohol in our home was when Uncle John Allen was there. And my mother would really have fits over it. She would be really mad about it. And they would take us to eat pizza. I remember that, my father's favorite food in the world was pizza. So if he would take us out for pizza, he would drink a beer with this pizza, hands down. It was weird. I drank milk with my pizza. I was the weirdest kid ever, y'all. Anyway, the Uncle John Allen, he was the one that told me that cute little girls grow up to be ugly, and ugly little girls grow up to be pretty. That was his way to make me feel better about being ugly, I guess. But anyway, he tried to do it in a way that was nice, I'm sure. But when he would come to our house to visit, we knew that, you know, even though we were really, really little when he was coming around, very, very young, that there was going to be a fight. When my mother came home from work, my mom and dad were going to have an argument. My mom and dad had hellacious fights. Hellacious. Bad. Really, really bad. Horrible fights. If my parents went out for a night, a date night, when we would have a babysitter, or my sister was 2.5 years older, so she may have been able to, watch over us for a couple of hours while my parents went out. But anytime my parents went out, they came back fighting horribly because they'd both be drinking, And, realizing that my parents only drank when they were out of the house means that they were driving drunk a lot. A lot. My father did get a DUI. He did get in a little bit of trouble later on in his life, especially, after Mothers Against Drunk Drivers came into play, and it really tightened up with drunk driving. And yeah, my father got in some trouble then. But anyway, looking back, I realized that my mother was working outside of the house just to, I think, socialize. I didn't realize this at the time, but my father worked at NASA. He made good money. My father was a very good provider, and he made good money. But I know my mother loved to socialize. My father was antisocial, really antisocial, did not like to go anywhere, didn't like to do anything. I kind of take after my dad. I hate to say that. I know y'all think I'm really social. I'm not that social. My husband is a social butterfly. He's social enough for both of us, and he drags me around. So that's how I get my socialness. But my mother was very social, and when she got to go to work, she was a waitress, So she had a really good time. She had a lot of energy back then. She was a lot younger, and waiting on tables, taking care of people, and all the crew that worked at the restaurant and everything. She loved socializing with them. And then after work, they would all get together and go to the restaurant bar and have a few drinks, every night, every single night. So I know she really, really loved her job. And also she had, extra money, and she had 5 kids to spend it on. So she had extra money, and she could do her own thing. And I think she liked the freedom. She liked having her own car. And, what better reason to get away from 5 kids than to go to work? you know, that was probably a break for her. I'm not kidding you. That was probably a break, getting away from the kids, because that was a lot. 5 kids is a lot. So I feel like that, she really worked just for herself, for her own enjoyment. But there came a time when she allowed me to work with her. I think I was at like 13 years old, 13, maybe 14, somewhere around there. I was just barely a teenager. And I went to work for this seafood restaurant. I won't say their name. Very well-known seafood restaurant. It's not a chain. It was privately owned, but it was in the Houston area, let's say. I grew up in Pasadena, Texas, so it was in that area. Anyway, came a time where my mother said, "Do you want to work?" And I said yes, and I became the salad bar girl. So which I can't even believe my mother let me do this. They would take heads of lettuce and shred it in a lettuce shredder. It would be a blade going around. Now they have packaged salad that they just buy packaged and put it out. But back then we did our own. And my mother would be like, "Be careful of your fingers." I'm like, I would never let my kid do that. No way. So, but I did that for a while. We had to cut up cucumbers. We had to do it all, slice all this stuff, and keep the salad bar functioning, make it full. That was my job, and I didn't stay on that for very long. I was very mature looking for 13 years old, and acted mature too, because you can fake it. So I got promoted to hostess in no time at all. So I was probably maybe 14 years old and I was the hostess. Can you imagine that? I was the hostess at a restaurant. And some of my teachers even came and ate there. So they knew I was working. I would be working till, I think the restaurant closed at 11 and then we'd have cleanup afterwards. Hostess had not only seat the people, but, you know, bust the tables and get things ready. They hustle and bustle. I would be working like crazy. So, yeah, I don't even know how I functioned really when I look back. When you're young, you have so much energy, but I don't know how I did it all because I didn't go to bed till, probably 1 o'clock in the morning. If I got to bed by one, I would be lucky. And then I had to get up and go to school the next morning. So I really don't even know how I did it. So I came to learn that my mother loved to socialize after work. We always wondered, we just thought she was at work all the time and she came home late at night. We were already in bed. We didn't really put two and two together. But after I started working with her, I found out what she was doing. So she would go in the bar and sit down with, you know, whoever was left over, the friends, that some of the waitresses went home, of course, to their families, but there were some people that, all got together. And there was a good bit of them that would do that at night, sit down and have a few beers before they would go home. And I would sit down, 'cause I had my ride home with my mother. And once in a while, I would leave my mother. I'd go home with one of the boys. They would drive me home because I'd want to go home. And I would say, "Can he give me a lift home?" And my friend Jody worked there too, and he had a motorcycle, so he would drive me home on his motorcycle. And back in those days, y'all, it was such a different time. You could stop at a bar and a 13 or 14-year-old could get a beer. Can you believe that? One time we did that. We stopped at a pool hall and got a beer on the way home. And I was probably 14 years old. Nobody said anything. It's weird. And he was 16 and 14. Anyway, um, we would be sitting there and my mother would allow me to have a beer, right? She would say, "You can have one beer. That's it, one beer." And it'd be a mug of beer, it'd be a mug of beer. And when my mother wasn't paying attention, she was laughing. She was having a great time. She told jokes. My mother was a really great joke teller. She would tell jokes and everything. She was the life of the party. She loved to be the center of attention. And when she was just all doing all this, the boys, they'd be changing my mug. Every time my mug would get a little empty, they would change it with a full one. So I would have 3 or 4 beers before I would even get home. I'd be sitting in the seat, almost passing out on the way home. But a lot of times we would stop and have breakfast. So my mother would stop at this restaurant, and it was like a mom and pop IHOP that was open 24 hours. And I would get this pizza omelet. No, it was chili, not a pizza. It was a chili omelet, I think. That's what it was. It was a chili omelet. It was so good. I don't know. It was tomato pasty thing, but it was so good. I would always get the same thing. I'm like that now too. I'll do the same thing over and over and over. On the nights that we didn't stop and get food, because I didn't eat. I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch. I didn't eat while I was working. I never ate lunch at school. I saved my money. Can't spend money on food. I was little, y'all. I used to be really skinny. I used to be like a size 3. I was tiny, tiny, tiny. My mother used to have to take me to a little boutique just to find clothes that would fit me. I remember them telling her, "She's just tiny." That was a long time ago. Never heard those words again. But anyway, when I would get home, I would have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with milk. And sometimes I'd be so hungry, I'd make a triple decker sandwich. I'd have 3 slices of bread with peanut butter and jelly. And even now, that is my go-to food. I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with milk. Sometimes a little bit of potato chips on top too. That's good. Yeah, I My husband thinks I'm crazy because he loves really healthy food. He likes meat and rice and stuff like that. He does not, I mean, peanut butter and jelly, maybe a little bit for breakfast with some bread or something on a toast. That's it. And he knows if I really want something satisfying, I want peanut butter and jelly and a big old glass of milk. But anyway, all this working didn't leave me much time to ride my motorcycle anymore. So that was kind of left on the side. And that's kind of when I started transitioning to more of being a girl instead of such a tomboy. But right before I did that, I had met a boy riding motorcycles. He had a Yamaha 125. Um, his motorcycle was so cool. It was brand new. It was very powerful. It was much bigger than mine. I had a little Suzuki 90 that I had stripped completely down and taken, everything off from so I could make it lighter and jump over the ditches with. So I had a little motorcycle. It was small, and he had this big 125 Yamaha 125, and he was all decked out. He had all the motorcycle pads on and the uniform and the hat and the boots, everything. He looked so cute, and I just was like in awe of him when I first met him. I thought he was all that in a bag of chips. He looked so grown up and so professional. So I really took a liking to him. And my mother completely hated him. She couldn't stand him. Now, I don't know why she didn't like him. I don't know. Maybe he was kind of sneaky because, looking back, I can see he was a sneaky kid because he did a lot of sneaky things that I found out about later. And I don't know why. I don't know. She didn't like him. Mothers have a sense about things, so she didn't really like him, and she didn't really want me to see him anymore. And she really tried her best to um, tell me to stay away from him. Basically, he was from a little ways away from us. He lived close, but not that close. He lived a few miles away. Went to a different school. He was a couple of years older than me. Probably I was 14. He was 16, something like that. I may have even been 13. I'm not sure. I was still in junior high. Probably 14. Probably 14. But anyway, she decided that I shouldn't see him anymore, and she told me, "You're not seeing him no more." I guess she thought I was falling in love with him and getting too serious or something. So she needed to put a stop to it. So she said I couldn't see him anymore. So what did I do? I started sneaking out my bedroom window at night to go see him because that was the only time I could see him because I was working all the time or she had me on a short leash. I had no way to see him unless I saw him, at nighttime when everybody was asleep. So I was sneaking out my window and seeing him. One night he comes and taps on my window and I'm ready to go out and putting my clothes on. I'm going to go see him. He comes into my bedroom and this is a time when all my sisters are in the room too. They're asleep in my room too. Now, my older sister, I'm sure she knew what was going on. She knew that I was sneaking out, but she wouldn't tell on me because I had a lot of juice on her too. So basically, she used to sneak my parents' car out, and I knew she would sneak the car out. And so if I told on her, she told on me. So we both had it, we hold our tongue. So we had juicy information on both, so nobody told on each other. So basically, although I did make her bring me along for the ride one time. I told her, I'm going to wake up Mom if you don't take me with you. And I made her take me for a joyride. We got all trouble. We got caught. So yeah, and she got in trouble because she took her little sister with her too. So anyway, we did all kinds of things. Y'all know how that is when you're young. You're doing all kinds of crazy things. Now, kids might not do it exactly like that now, but back then, stealing your parents' car and joyride, that was the thing. I only did that one time and got caught. I didn't steal it. I just went along for the ride. I never had, I could never do anything so bold, but I could sneak out. Anyway, my mama caught me. She came in my room when I was getting dressed and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm a little cold. I'm putting on some clothes." And she looks out my window and his, she sees him and he sees that, he starts running. He takes off and runs. He runs home. He's gone. And she's told, of course, she slapped me across the face and, you know, gave me some more smacks here and there and told me I better stay away from him, you know. So I was in big trouble. I think I got grounded and everything. She used to love to ground me. I had to go to work, so you know what is she going to do? Ground me on a Saturday? If I didn't have to work, just stay in my room. It didn't really work grounding at that point, but because I had a little life. But me and him decided we were going to run away, since my mama didn't want me to see him anymore, and she put so much pressure on us, and we couldn't see each other. We decided to run away. So we packed up a tent and some sleeping gear. We went camping. We took his motorcycle and went probably not that far, a few miles away, where his father knew. I guess he'd been camping there before, and his father came and found us camping, sent me back home. So I got into more trouble, got smacked around a little more, you know, and it was pretty bad. It was bad enough that I decided I didn't want to see him anymore. I said, that was enough. I don't want to go through this anymore. This is so painful. You know, it's something broke inside me, and I was just like, I'm done. I don't want her hitting me anymore. I'm tired of getting in trouble, and I'm done. So I broke up with him. He didn't like it. He stalked me for a little while. He would come to my bedroom window with his motorcycle buzzing by. You know, you ever Yamaha 125 going through full blast, you know. So he would do that constantly. But I just ignored him, and he finally did, you know, he gave up finally. But yeah. And then I found out that, you know, he was doing other things that I didn't know anything about. That I was really anti-smoking back in that day. I I did not like people that smoked, and both my parents smoked. So maybe I was just like so sick of cigarette smoke that it just turned me off. And I just felt like they're not good for you. It's stupid to smoke. Why would anybody do that? I don't understand why you would poison your body. And I've always felt like that ever since I was a young child. So I found out he smoked behind my back, which how did I not know that? And that he smoked marijuana, and that he was taking drugs and stuff like that. He was doing some other things that I didn't know about that came to light later on. So maybe my mother's, intuition was right about him, and it was good that I stayed away from him because, he was doing things that maybe could have influenced me in the long run. Hopefully not, but anyway. Like I said, both my parents smoked, and my husband Johnny, when I met him, he smoked. And we got married, and he smoked all over the house. He smoked in our bedroom. He smoked after dinner. He smoked at the table. He smoked at his recliner. He smoked the whole house up. And I tolerated it. It's so weird. I don't. He had a heart attack at 40, and he gave up cigarettes. That was it. That was his last. I mean, that wasn't his last, but he quit then. He did smoke a couple of cigarettes after that, but he's never gone back to smoking. So thank goodness. Anyway, I cried a whole lot after I broke up with that boy. And my friend Jody, that I've told y'all about before, that has passed, that's with me all the time. He's always with me, giving me strength and courage. And he was there for me when I broke up with this boy, just cutting up and, his little antics to distract me because I was all sad. And he would just all the time make me laugh. He was so funny. He was so sweet and kind. And he just really helped me get through a tough period of my life. I'll never forget him. I love him so much. But my mother, that um, I saw her in a different way. When she was at work, she was kind and fun, and everybody thought she was a wonderful person. People that didn't live with her, that weren't her children, they thought she was a fantastic, wonderful person. And throughout my life, I've seen people that give away the best of themselves to people that are just acquaintances or, co-workers, friends, things like that. And then when it comes to their families, they don't have anything left to give because they've been giving so much throughout the day. And I've had to have this conversation with my husband throughout our marriage many, many times because he's kind of like that too. He's a giver. He gives so much. And we've always had our own business. We've always worked together. And he would give so much to our clients, to our coworkers, friends, anything. He's just on. You know what I mean? You know, those people that you see them and they're on, they're instantly on. They're very, um, charismatic and they're just on. That's how my husband is. And when he gets home, he would get home from work, he would just be depleted. He would be tired and he would just sit in his recliner and buzz out and go to sleep, you know, because he was exhausted from being on and giving so much of himself. So, like I've always been telling you guys, that my story always reveals a message for me and a message hopefully for you guys too. So I recognized in my husband's behavior, um, that all that love and compassion that he showed, you know, so many other people wasn't really translating to the family very well because when he was home, he was demanding, rigid, and intolerant. And so I asked him many times, please don't waste all your kindness and compassion on others. Please save some for us. Because I knew he was this loving, kind, sweet soul that, you know, that would do anything for anybody, but he would just be empty when he would get home. So why do people do this? You know, why do they want others to think they're so wonderful? You know, they give and give and give, and when they get home from work, there's nothing left to give their families. You know, you get this tired, grumpy person, um, that has released all their energy and their tank is empty when they get home. You know, don't do that to your family, guys. Don't do that. You need to, um, relax more. And you know, when you get home from work, you want to relax, but that's when there's demands that need to be met because children need to be taken care of, family needs to be taken care of, home needs to be taken care of. So many responsibilities that we all have, and we don't want to be short with people that we love. So when I say relax, you need to relax when you're at work, you know, and that sounds kind of counterproductive, but really it's not. Uh, you know, you need to take care of yourself, and that taking care of yourself, because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is going to take care of you. You've got to do it for yourself. You know, you can and you should be kind to the people at work, of course, you know, your clients, your friends, coworkers, but there are people that you will encounter that are like an energy drainer. Some people call them an energy vampire, where they just suck the life out of you. And that can be customers, clients, it can be coworkers. You need to really cut your time with them because they really will drain your energy. There's people that are, they're just needy. They're in need. They got to tell you their story, what's going on with them. Or there's some people that just got to talk and talk and talk about themselves. And you have to answer and listen, you know. So there's some energy drainers, and you have to be perceptive and go with your intuition and you know, look at that situation in your life and see, is there somebody draining your energy, asking more of you than they should? You need to limit your time with them, right? And sometimes it's a difficult thing to do, but you can learn how to do that and learn how to understand who that is draining your energy. Now, another thing that you need to do is fill your tank at work, right? And so that you won't come home depleted. So do something kind for yourself while you're at work. I know you're getting paid to do a job and you can do your job, but if you're energized, if you are peaceful, if you're happy, you're going to be a much better worker, right? So do something that will fill your tank. If you're able to, you can put an earpiece in your ear and you can listen to some music without bothering anybody else. Or you could listen to a podcast without anybody else being any of the wiser. Look, if I had one in my ear, you wouldn't even see it, right? So you could listen to something, and depending on what you do for work, but that would help create energy and peace in your day and fill up your tank, right? When you're feeling joyful and feeling good, that's filling up your tank. Another thing that you can do is, eat lunch. A lot of you maybe don't eat lunch or eat something that's, really um, unhealthy or unsatisfying for lunch. Eat something healthy for lunch. If you will take the time to decide what you're going to eat the week before, you can bring your lunch to work, or whatever you figure out to do that you can eat more healthy. That'll fill up your tank also. But you need to do that because by the time you get home, you're starving. Your energy is way, way down. So you need to do that. So that's part of taking care of yourself. Also, there are people that do this. Now, there are some companies that have a nap room, or there are some people that have their own office and then close the door and lean back in their chair and take a little nap. My husband used to do this at work. When we had our own office, he would always nap in his office. And I couldn't understand how this man could take a nap during the middle of the day. Of course, he's 12 years older than me, and now I realize that it's real easy to take a nap in the middle of the day. I've been doing it for years. But that's, if you're tired, you need to take a nap. Some people just go to their car. If your company doesn't offer you a place where you can just close your eyes for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and take a little nap, you can go in your car and just lean back in your seat and take a little nap. Set your alarm on your phone so that you won't oversleep. And, take your lunch down there. If you're tired, take your lunch, eat your lunch, and take a little nap. A lot of people do that. And, you're getting a lot of stimulation at work. There's a lot of people around you. So when you go down to your car and you eat your lunch, not that you want to be antisocial, it's not something you have to do every day, but once in a while, that's a good thing for you to do. It's just to take a little peaceful lunchtime for yourself. So think about things that will fill up your tank, that will create peace and harmony for you, whatever that may be, because everybody's different. Maybe you just like to go, you're reading a book and you just like to go sit outside and read a book. So do that on your lunch break. Take your lunch and go sit outside, take some bread and throw it to the birds, and then they'll poop on you while you eat. Yeah. But there's many, many different ways. You can take a walk. Take a walk, around your building, around your office building. Get outside, get in some sunshine. Vitamin D is essential to our bodies. So do things that will fill up your tank and make you a better person for when you get home for your family. Your life should be pleasant, and your family should look forward to seeing you, to being with you, enjoying you. So don't give it all away, before you get home, to the people who really mean the most to you and, love you more than anything else. You want to love yourself first so you can love your family and keep your tank full. Okay? All right, guys. So I enjoy sharing my stories with you guys. I never really know what will evolve as I tell the story until I get to the end. So I guess that's the lesson here, is to um, keep that loving feeling for your family, all that enthusiasm that you're showing throughout the day, bring it home to your family too. Don't give it all away. So it's really important for you to do that. When you tell your own story, and the lessons that you've already learned, you may not really realize the lesson until you begin to tell your story and you reflect on it. So that's kind of what's happening to me as I tell you guys these stories. That you've experienced the lesson and you integrate that lesson into your life, and you don't really realize that you've done that until you start telling the story, and you become conscious of it and aware of it. So it's very interesting to do that. So you should keep a journal, a diary, or just write your story out, tell your story. And you'll see too in your life how everything has unfolded, and it'll make more sense. It really, really makes more sense, and you can understand yourself better, actually. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for all the lovely comments that I read every day. I really appreciate them. It's so beautiful. And if you would like to have a free healing session, please contact me. I'm going to leave my email address below. If you need energy cleared from your home, if you need your chakras balanced, if you would like to get a reading, please contact me. Okay? My email is below. So do something kind for someone. It will always come back to you. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Love you so much. Thank you for listening to me and being here with me. Love y'all so much. Bye for now.